All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Stars Podcast. This is Ron Jordan
Aaron Diaz.
and our special guest today.
I'm Mike Fecik.
Awesome. So, thank you guys for joining us. And let's jump into it, man. So, Mike, I got introduced to you by Josh Williams, who came up to Grove City Gym to roll. He comes up, he's got family local, and he came up to roll with us, and he's come up like three or four times, I think. And man, solid guy. And I connected with him pretty quickly, and he's got his own gym as well. And I guess I kind of wanted to connect the dots as to how you know him and what that is.
Yeah, I actually I was living in Maryland for quite a while and started working for Josh, went to his gym. Oh, geez.
The cat.
Get out of here.
I got one of those too that comes up here every now and again.
Oh, it's so annoying. Anyway, yeah, so I started working with Josh and worked for him about 2 years. We connected really well. He was doing primarily all strength, and I, just like I've always done, I've been doing primarily all endurance work. So he kind of took me under his wing and taught me pretty much a lot of what I know strength-wise.
Yeah.
We did like Russian kettlebell training, move nat training, which is like just moving naturally, Olympic lifting, those kinds of things. So yeah, that's how we met. And he's a wealth of knowledge, a really smart guy, definitely a cool guy to hang out with. He likes to give you your own shit though too, because he told me one time that triathlon basically was lifting deadlift, squat, and bench press, right? He's like, well, that's the only triathlon anybody ever needs to know. So that's
Yeah, that sounds about like Josh.
Yeah. But I mean, he's a cool guy. He's a really cool guy. And wife is super talented. She used to be a really, really good runner, and she's still a runner. So really cool family.
Awesome. So what, are you from Maryland then?
No, I'm from Pennsylvania actually, and moved down to Maryland for, I think, about 4 or 5 years, something like that. And then, moved back to Pennsylvania, and now I live up in Canada actually.
Yeah. I noticed that. I saw Ontario, so I'm like, how in the hell is he connected with Josh? And I was trying to figure that out, so I'm glad I asked that question. So you're up.
See, Ron has the thing that everybody is from Northwest Pennsylvania. Like, there's no other place beside it. Like there's other states out there, Ron.
Are
you countries?
I don't know. I don't know if that's true yet.
It's like the earth is flat.
I travel for work. You know that, right? Like, I'm all over the place. So, so endurance athlete. I mean, that's really the big background that I wanted to hit on. Being an endurance athlete, something that we talk about all the time here on Stars Podcast is kind of that mindset behind it. But we also talk about that mindset doesn't just come from birth. Where does that work ethic come from for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think growing up, it came from watching my dad work. He would just work like a dog all the time, right? Like whether he was at work or he was, just working around the house. So a lot of it, I think, for me was learned from him. And then beyond that, for me, it was getting into some reading that made me really think more about like just falling in love with the process of training. As I got older, I realized that you couldn't just train to train. You needed to have like that why, and you needed to really fall in love with the process of training in order to get better. It's not something that can be forced. You can work hard, but if you don't have that like mentality of I'm just going to let things be the way they're supposed to, and things are still going to fall into place even though I'm working my ass off, it's not going to happen, and you're just going to burn out.
So it sounds to me like you're really talking about a vision that you have from the onset.
Mm-hmm.
So what did your dad do? I mean, he was working like a dog, but what was he doing?
Yeah, so I mean, by trade, he was an accountant. So he was working long hours. He worked in Philadelphia. We lived in Lancaster. So he was getting on the train, commuting down, working 12 plus hours a day, commuting back, having family time still, and doing all that day in and day out. And then on the weekends, he was really handy as well. I mean, he still is. But like he would be doing a lot of like carpentry, he would be doing housework, and he would just get up in the morning, have his cup of coffee, and then he was out the door ready to work. And when we worked with him, it was like, don't just work a little bit. It was like you start work at the beginning of the day and you don't end until the project is done. So like, Dad, can we take like a 10-minute break for lunch? No, we got to keep going. We have stuff to do.
Yeah. So constant movement.
Yeah. Constant movement.
That's definitely an old way of thinking too. I think that this is, I mean, I got projects sitting outside right now that's are half done, but
right.
I think the older generation that was really ingrained in them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a totally different concept now.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, my dad's dad still does that. He still gets up, he still works like hard. So my grandfather, he would allow my dad to work with him, but working with my grandfather was, you get to clean up all my mess while I continue working. So at least my dad let me do more work. And he always told me that too. He made sure to tell me, your grandfather, he would always just make me clean up. At least I'm letting you help me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's funny. So your grandpa, he's still alive. Your dad's still alive.
Yep.
So what do they think about what you do now?
I don't think, like, my brother and I both do the same thing.
Okay.
So they have a general idea, but it's definitely not like just a normal 9 to 5 or 12-hour day or whatever it is, right? It's a lot more kind of work, and it seems like play to them. But at the same time, they realize that we're creating, lifestyles, and we're creating healthiness for everybody. And we're also still working to support families.
Right.
Yeah. So, hey, Mike, what's your motivation? Because I know, like, me and you well, I'm making an assumption. From what I'm hearing, me and you are in the same mind space as far as helping people and trying to make better people. And Ron can attest to this too. So is that your drive?
Yeah. So I've always been really good at helping people and understanding people. I think something I'm able to do is really read people within 5 to 10 minutes of meeting them, and kind of, use that to my advantage to help me to understand what they need and what drives them. So I think that, I've always been good at that. And, when I went to school and I started out trying to be a teacher, and I wanted to be like a music teacher. I actually grew up around music more than I did sports. But I just wasn't great at playing piano, to be honest with you. And to be a music teacher, you have to play the piano. And I said, forget this. So I got a degree in business and music, but I still just found myself really drawn to helping people and educating people. So as much as I'm a coach, I think of myself more as an educator than anything else. I constantly am trying to teach my clients things. Like last night, we did a Zoom call with a naturopath to talk to them about, how like cortisol levels can really affect endurance athletes and even like fighters and pretty much any athlete. So I try to bring in people that have a sound education, and I do the same thing with my training. You're not going to find any of my clients swinging a kettlebell while on a Bosu ball and then jumping off and doing like, push-ups upside down and, like crazy stuff that you would see on Instagram. Everything I do is really sound and based off of actually educated stuff. And a lot of it seems boring because you're doing a lot of the basics, but that's what gets people the results. And it always has, and it always will. It's not going to be a fad thing. So yeah, the education for sure in that mindset is huge for me.
Yeah. Everybody thinks about CrossFit and like the natural movements and stuff. Do you agree with the CrossFit kind of method of training, or do you think it's too extreme, or people going to get hurt? Like, where are you at in that space?
Yeah. I mean, I've never been to a CrossFit gym, number one. Well, once, I guess I've been for a training once to a CrossFit gym. But that goes back to working with Josh, actually. People came to that gym because it was like a last resort for them. They had gone to CrossFit, they had gotten injured, they had, moved on with families and just kind of fallen out of fitness, and they just weren't sure what to do. But it was that sound education that he kind of enforced on all of us that made that gym so good, and still does make that gym so good. It's taking the basics and being really, really good. There's no one in Maryland, probably on the Eastern Seaboard, that can squat better than people coming out of that gym. It's just the way it is. He brings in people that either understand how to do that correctly. Like there's a guy, John Flagg, that works out of there, and he's a really, really good lifter. I think he just squatted 700 for 2 the other day or something like that. Like just incredible weight that I will never even be able to lift up ever. But like it's having that sound movement before you start adding the weights, I think, on the weight side of things. And, before you can do anything, you have to be able to squat. You have to be able to do an RDL with a straight back. You have to be able to just have really good general movement. And I don't know, Ron, when he was at your gym, if he talked to you about anything like that at all.
No, he didn't really talk to me about that. He just decided that he was going to play cat and mouse with me. Well, because we were doing jiu-jitsu, so he just kind of played defense on me because I was brand new. So he was real sweet in that respect. But just like you said, the same way he approaches fitness was the same way that he approached jiu-jitsu, in my opinion. It was a lot of the basics, and that was his message to me also while we were rolling, was some real basic stuff. And from that, that's really what I focus on, are the basics, because with that strong foundation, you can build off of that, but you always have to have the basics down pat. So that mindset is appropriate for both martial arts and lifting, and running for that matter.
Yeah, I think the running front, it's the same thing. People are just like, I just want to be fast. I want to be fast. I want to be fast. And I'm like,
right. I want to do a bunch of miles. I want to do marathons. And it's like, me personally, and this is a reason why I'm having you on too, is I broke myself the first year I tried to run because I tried to do it without a coach. Yeah. And I ended up getting a coach, and he helped me tremendously, but it wasn't until after I broke myself.
Right. Because
the mindset, like once you get a mindset to go forward and you really double down on that, you're also teaching yourself to endure pain. So whenever you have the pain coming on, you're like, you just got to push through it. You got to push through it. You got to push through it. But without somebody else there being a coach to say, hey, that's not normal. You shouldn't be doing that. Having that experience level. So yeah, it's just one of those things where having somebody there like yourself as a coach, it's very, very important. And I just attest to that all the time when anybody asks me, should I go to physical therapy and should I get a coach? Yes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I mean, a lot of clients come to me and they're already great athletes, but what they don't have is the accountability factor too, right? So like they're out there, and I have one girl, she came to me, and this was 3 years ago. She's like, I want to do an Olympic triathlon. I'm like, all right, well, what's your background? She's like, well, I've done a little bit of running and a little bit of biking and a little bit of swimming. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? And she's like, I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it all together. I'm like, okay, fine. That year she qualified for well, she did her first 70.3. She did a Boston qualifying running time, and she did the Olympic triathlon, which was her only goal for the year.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, it's crazy, like just having that consolidated plan, number one, but then also being able to have someone say you're doing too much or you're doing too little is the other side of things, right? Like we can all attest for that. Like if I didn't have a coach, I would be out running every single mile that I possibly could and just run myself into the ground, but I have a coach and he says, hey, you need a day off, and I take a day off because I know that he's looking out for the best of what I need and keeping me accountable for the days that I'm actually running. So I think a lot of it has to do with, everybody runs themselves into the ground and then they go back and they get a coach and do it the right way.
Yeah. So that brings me, because that parallels into just real life in general. Something I talk about with my team all the time is you can go 100 miles an hour, but you can only do it for so long. You have to have rest and recovery, and that's personal life.
That's like life too, Ron.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just like you can only go that fast for so long, or that long for so long, and ultimately it'll catch up to you, and you do crash because you crash and burn. So how do you find that healthy balance with your clients? I'm assuming that it's going to be client based, different for each individual and each plan. But as a general approach for our listeners, what would you recommend? Just as a healthy balance? Is it a feel thing, or is it nuts and bolts, 1, 2, 3? You tell me.
Yeah. So a lot of times it really does come down to feel at this point for me. When I was first doing, starting out with coaching, it was a little bit more, okay, A plus B equals C and nuts and bolts, where it was like, you have to get, 2 runs in a week, one of which has to be speed, or if you're just starting out, both are endurance. Same on the bike. You need a rest day in there, and you need 2 to 3 swims, depending on who you are and how good your swimming is. And now it's really coming down to being able to feel out people a little bit more. Like, I have a client and she has 2 kids and her husband works full time. She works, part time. So it's making sure that her schedule matches up with her husband so that he can still go out. He's a really, really good runner as well. They're both 100-mile runners. So it's just like,
God, in one house?
Yeah, in one house. And
Woo! How does that work?
I don't know. I don't even think I could run 100 miles if my wife was running 100 miles in that same year. It's impossible, right?
Yeah, just knowing that type of training schedule, that's wild.
Yeah. So like they make it work, right? They trade off on kids. She does her long runs on Fridays and Saturdays. He does his Saturday afternoons and Sundays. And then during the week, she has a little bit more flexibility during the day, but she still has to worry about the kids in there too, as well as she teaches ballet. So, we have
Talk about a busy household.
Yeah, no kidding. So, it's a lot of like just all these little intricate things that go into play with someone's schedule. Whereas like myself, it's me and my wife. So I can, coach and get what I need done during the day, but I can still sprinkle in my training and get her what she needs, even though she works full time plus usually it's 45 to 50 hours of working for her. Yeah. So, we do our long runs a lot of the times together. It just depends on the household, and it depends on your lifestyle too. If you're going out and partying every Friday night, then you're not getting up Saturday to go run, 25 miles or anything like that, or you're not getting up and doing a 4-hour bike ride. It's just not going to happen. So for me to program for someone to do that isn't going to work. But if I know that that's the typical thing, then maybe Friday they do a longer run in the morning time. And then Saturday they're off, or they do something easy. And then Sunday they, have their longer bike or run or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to cut you off, Mike, but just like a typical person, you might have to find out more about them, their background, their family, their mindset. I mean, there's so much more that goes into it. You're not like that guy in like Planet Fitness that's handing out towels and saying, hey, you're doing this wrong. You know what I mean? So like you're really giving them a whole lot more. And do you delve any more into maybe their history or like how their family life was?
Yeah. So usually what happens is when someone is interested, I do a consult call with them to begin with. And the consult call usually consists of just seeing where they're at goal-wise, where they're trying to get to, and then how, if it's a good fit, how I could help bridge that gap. And that's just about it. It's about 45 minutes long. Some goal setting if people are like, I don't really know what I want to do. And then from there, once I start coaching with them, we do a whole nother session where I find out health history, previous activity,
Injuries, maybe.
Yeah, injuries, what their lifestyle is, if they have kids, anything like that, really. And then from there, we can kind of start building out a little bit of a plan. But I try to build a relationship. I don't want to just be a very one-sided thing.
Yes.
It's a relationship thing. And you know what? The hardest thing isn't the coaching. Like putting a program together, you can find them online for free. You can buy a template,
Yep.
but they're not for you. What you do is when you're a coach, you need to really dive into someone's health history, build a relationship with that person. And I can tell you every single one of the clients that I have, I know a lot more than most people probably do about them. And that's because we just dive in on that stuff. And as we get more comfortable, they tell me more and more. And that's what makes a good relationship between a coach and an athlete is the more you can tell that person and the more you feel comfortable with that person.
Yeah. And then probably also what motivates them as well. So like if you say, well, I want to fit in this certain size, or I want to be around for my kids' graduation, or to walk my daughter down the aisle, or, things of those nature. Like, you're like, hey, remember your why.
Yeah, for sure. And that, especially with like the longer races in Ironman, ultra marathon running, you have to have like 4 to 5 whys, right? Even with marathons, like you're going to be like 13 miles in and be like, why the hell am I doing this? And then you have to have 2 things because, doing this for yourself to lose weight is not going to help you at that point. Yeah, you have to have those whys of I'm doing this to show my kids that, working hard does pay off, or that, doing this now is going to help me in the long run to achieve other goals in life, whether it's with sports or not, it doesn't matter. Like if you don't have those whys, then you're screwed really. And your training will suffer too.
Right. I know something in martial arts, like me teaching self-defense. I teach, Krav Maga and firearms training. Like there's so much more of the student that I start to know. Like, okay, I was sexually abused, or I was, don't have the confidence to do certain things. And then, the martial art portion is secondary, and just having that, like, I think I've affected more people maybe mentally, than just teaching them how to punch or kick, because that's the secondary portion of it.
Yeah. I think that, for all of us as coaches, we should have some degree of knowledge in psychology almost, and that's something that I keep going back on as doing as a secondary degree, or at least getting some training in, because the amount, at least where I'm at, and I don't know what it's like with martial arts or anything like that, but I'm sure that fighters eventually have this issue as they start to do more and more, is just the eating issues. I can't tell you how many people I see, guys and girls, that come to me and they're emaciated and they think that they're ready for the sport, and then they keep getting injured over and over again. And it's because they're eating enough, So you put a little bit of weight on and they realize their performance goes way up and they're like, why am I not doing this? But they're looking at those people on Instagram that are like really, really thin, and they're like, oh, I'm going to go out and run, or they look at like people going to Kona and they see these professionals, the reason the professionals are like that is because they eat so much, but their body is just eating away at them day after day. And that's why. It's not that they're starving themselves. So I see a lot of health issues with mental health on the eating side. Is it like that with combat sports?
Yeah, I mean, I personally haven't dealt with that as much, because really the caloric intake that you would need to take for, let's say, an ultra marathon, it's not the same physical activity wise going into martial arts. You know, it's not that draining on the body. It's more, I think, of a mental aspect than being so much of a physical, drain on the body. Am I right, Ron?
Yeah, other than weight cuts, I don't really see too much of an issue, but the weight cuts are drastic on the jiu-jitsu scene.
I didn't realize how drastic some of them are. Last night when we were talking with the naturopath, he brought up a guy that is a world champion MMA fighter that he works with. And the guy will, in 1 week, cut 35 pounds to make weight. And
who was the naturopath?
He works up here. It's Phenom Performance Medicine is the name of it. It's Dr. Cowan.
Okay.
Yeah. And he
Ron's
just
putting it on the list now.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send you his information. He is just fascinating to talk. I could sit there and talk to him all day, but like, he works with all these professional athletes, NHL, NBA, fighters, gymnasts. He had 4 people that were supposed to be going to the Olympics.
Right.
So he's
That's amazing.
Awesome. I will definitely hook you up with him because he's so cool. But it's just crazy. I didn't realize that they were cutting that much weight that quickly to make weight, and then they put it all back on to go and fight, and it's just like holy.
Yeah, and your body can't even absorb all of that nutrient that comes back in. So most of what you put back in just comes right back out.
Yeah,
there's only so much that you can put back in. That's interesting too, and that's something that I realized in my own training, because whenever I had started cutting back on my intake, I noticed that I did have more injuries. And even during runs, if I don't take food with me, I know when I have to eat, because my body will tell me. Like, my joints will start to hurt. There'll be certain muscles that will start to twinge just because I'm like, okay, well, that's starting to hurt, so I know I need water. Okay, that's starting to hurt. I definitely need some food now. Yeah, those triggers are definitely there, and it all comes from the food intake. That's interesting that people are coming in kind of emaciated, trying to go and do some real big things.
Yeah, it is crazy to me. I just, and then it's not only working with them about doing, day-to-day eating, but it's like that intro workout stuff, right? Like, you got to get calories in, and they don't realize, they're like, no, I don't. And then they start eating, a couple hundred calories on the bike, and they're like, oh my God, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
And then they start eating a little bit more and a little bit more, and they're like, holy shit, I think I could be a professional.
Yeah, you put 10 pounds on, it's amazing how much 10 pounds can get you through.
Yeah. It's
also
interesting, though, the point you brought up, Ron, about like your body tells you what you need while you're out running. And like, there's been so many races that all come into an aid station, and ultra running is a little bit different. You're allowed to, spectators can also be like kind of Sherpas for you. And like, you come into an aid station, and like, my wife will be there, and she'll be like, what do you need? And I'll come in sometimes and just blankly stare at her, and I'm like, I have no idea. And then she knows what I need now, right? Because she knows that usually means that I'm like starting to kind of go downhill, and I need salt and I need sugar, or one or the other. So she's like, okay, here, eat this. I lived off of my last race just eating mangoes and little chewable salt tabs, like literally lived off of that plus Tailwind. And it was just force feeding it. But the first 25K of that race, like, I wasn't taking anything in except for the Tailwind, and it wasn't enough. And then once we started getting it under control, it was like a different person. She thought she was going to have to run the last 50K with me. And I come into the 50K and I'm like, oh, I feel great. All right, I'll see you later. And I went,
That's wild how quick the body turns around like that. I mean, it is really astounding to me that we have such magnificent pieces of work, just within us. Let me ask you this, Mike. Whenever you were training for the 70.3, the how does that look? Ironman to me is just nuts.
Yeah.
Marathon to me is nuts.
Yeah, I
For
mean,
most people, yeah, absolutely, Aaron.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's funny, like it kind of evolved over the years. So when I
Did you
first,
like it? Did you like training for it? I guess that's my better question. Is like, did you like training for it?
yeah, to a certain degree, I did.
Okay.
You have to have a very, I guess, masochistic personality to go into it. So when I was doing, so I did Ironman Lake Placid in 2008 and 2009. Those were my two Ironmans. And I said I'd never run a marathon or anything longer than that after that, just because it was just too long. And now look at me, it's just weird how the mind changes. But so my bread and butter when I was racing triathlon was the 70.3 half Ironman distance. Because it had a good mix of everything. You could get in the speed work, but you still had to do the long distance stuff. But when I was peaking out for races in my last 2 to 3 years, I would say I was swimming between 10 and 15K a week, which is more than some people run in a week.
Yeah.
I was biking. I was biking 8 hours plus a week, and then I was running probably less than I am now. I was probably running about 10 hours a week. So putting that all together, that's 18. That was probably about 25 hours worth of training a week.
Okay.
But I was hitting big goals, and I wanted those goals, right? I was going into races wanting that, really specific goals. When I first started, I was probably swimming 2 to 3 days a week, which was maybe, I would say 5 to 8K. So around 5 miles, which still sounds like a lot of swimming, but you can eat that up pretty quickly. I was probably biking maybe 6 to maximum 8 hours. And I was running.
Gosh.
Yeah. A lot. It really is. But I mean, things add up so quickly too, right? Like when you're out biking for an hour to 2 hours on a Tuesday evening during the summer, and then you come back and you bike for another 3 hours, just nice and relaxed, or, with a little bit of effort on the weekends, there's 4 hours, 5 hours right there. So it's not hard to get the hours in.
Like you talking about like biking. Are you going balls to the wall? Like what?
No. Like when I was biking, I would do like maybe 1 to 2 sessions where you're going all out for some of it, right? But like you're not going all out for all of it. Some of the weekend rides I would ride with some guys that were true like road bikers, and it would be like, okay, let's just go out for a nice easy ride. And then about an hour and a half in, they all feel really good, so they start attacking each other, and you're like, what the hell? I thought we were just like having a nice casual ride here, and then you have to, like hit the gas for like a good 5 minutes just to keep up.
So for those who don't know, what does attacking mean?
So like you'll be riding in what we call a line, right? So it's like 3 or 4 guys riding behind each other, like 2 beside each other and 1 behind, or however many people there are. And then the lead guy will just take off, and he just sprints basically to get away from everybody, and then everybody else has to catch up. And then of course the guy that's second in line, because it's all guys, the ego's just come to bruised a little bit, he's like, forget this, I'm going to keep going, and he goes harder, right? Or the guy that's in the very back that's been like, that was usually me, sitting there just letting everybody else do all the work. All right, well,
like, you guys are good, go
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it eats your time up for sure, but like there's ways to make it work. I can get someone through an Ironman race and let them be happy with the results in about 13 hours a week. 12 hours a week maybe, but 13 hours a week, which really, when it comes down to it, that's 2 swims, 2 bikes, and 2 runs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you talk about you mentioned something, a masochistic attitude or masochistic mindset. That's something that the more that I get into kind of the endurance racing and the ultra racing, addiction comes up. masochistic mindset comes up. Those two are the biggest ones. And it's almost like, you know, you replace one addiction for another addiction, or typically that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, is that something that you struggled with too at some point? And you replaced it with working out and things like that? Or is it something different for you? Or do you come across what I'm talking about with some of your clients?
Yeah. So for me, myself, I never had anything that was like really addictive. I was never, you know, addicted to anything, per se. Obviously, like, you know, my background, I did come from a swimming background. And I did have weight and image issues. So that kind of went into play a little bit. A lot of my clients are in the same boat with, you know, they really want to control their weight. And this is a way for them to not necessarily have to control their weight and see it as something they need to do, you know, in addition to controlling their weight. They do it instead of controlling their weight. But there is a ton of runners out there that come from like cocaine addiction, alcohol addiction, anything like that. And that for sure goes into play with some of these people, and they're just transferring their addiction from one to the other. Especially in ultra running, you see so many of those people in ultra running now, because it's just something, okay, well, I can't do coke, so I might as well go out and run. And it's like, well, that's completely different, but get it, right?
Yeah.
So no, I haven't seen too much addiction with my clients.
Okay.
But you can definitely see some of that in ultra running for sure. And you can see how that would play in. The masochistic attitude for sure, though. A lot of these people, they're pushing their limits because they're not sure what else to do to get themselves to a pain level that they want to be at, you know?
Yeah.
Then come from running short races, a 5K, which might be, you know, painful in some ways, but they want to push the mental limit. So you have two kinds of people. You have the ones that are like addicted to something, and then you have the other ones that are like, let's just see what happens when I run 100 miles. Am I going to hallucinate? Am I going to, you know, puke and shit all over myself at the same time? You know, it's like these people just get this weird vibe, and it all goes into the racing. But then there's also people that go out. I know there's this one guy that was training for the Barkley for this year. He would get like drunk, like almost blackout drunk, and then have his wife drop him off in the woods, and he had to find his way home. And that's training for Barkley, because it's one of those races that, if anybody doesn't know, Barkley's like, it's supposed to be in a marathon, but it's really just like go out in the woods. You have to collect book pages, which are on your bib, and you have to finish a loop. And usually a loop takes about 4 to 5 hours to finish. So it's like orienteering and running at the same time. And if you don't make the cutoff, then you're just out.
It's like a survival training.
It really is. Yeah. So you have like these weird survivalists coming into racing too, but like training for some of this shit is just that, right? And there's training that I do with some of my clients, not that I'm going to go tell them to go get almost blackout drunk and be driven home, but like I'll have them go do a 20-mile run, but then I want them to take like a 6-sided dialogue, and every 20 minutes they have to roll. And then if they get a 6, they might have to do, 30 burpees. If they roll a 2, they might have to eat like 300 calories of food as fast as they can, and then run as hard as they can for the next 20 minutes. Things like that.
That's an interesting game.
You're a sadist.
Yeah. But people love it. Like,
yeah, I could definitely get down with that. That's just, that's fun.
But it helps them, right? Like it helps them to get into that mindset. You don't have to do as much of the training. It's crazy. Or they might just have a 10-mile run, and I might just say every mile you have to stop and you have to do, 10 lunges on each leg and 10 squats and 10 burpees. And what it does is actually has a great training effect on people, right? Especially if you're running on the road and you're trying to do trail races, it helps you to break up your stride a little bit. And that's a huge thing with trail racing. You never have the same stride. So
yeah, absolutely. So going back to pain tolerance, I noticed that you have a large tattoo on your arm over there on the left side. I was noticing too, whenever I was looking through the that hashtag, what was it, killed by Fecik or
Yeah.
death by Fecik.
Death by Fecik, yeah.
So I was looking, and then some of your clients have it too, and I'm like, wait, I have one too. Why do we all do this? But anyhow, what does your tattoo mean? It's a huge bear with a lady inside of it.
Yeah. So the lady's actually my wife, just because I didn't want some random chick on my arm. But
Okay.
I tell everybody that
Hey, good job.
Yeah, I got points with that one. But we're in a fight, and I don't shave my arm. It looks like she has a mustache sometimes. So
I love it.
But yeah, so the bear is just kind of like, I kind of feel like that's something that I kind of relate to is, you know, I'm able to do what I need to, and I'm very headstrong as a person.
And you're furry.
And I'm furry, right? My chest right now. It's the winter time, right?
Got the COVID fur going on.
That's right. So yeah, like the bear to me is kind of a symbol of kind of what I feel would be if I was an animal, I'd be like, right? You know, I'm very patient and very understanding, and I like to eat a lot of food.
Yeah.
But I'm still able to move as quickly as I need to, and I'm adaptable to my environment. And then besides that, it was kind of weird just to have a bear. So I was like, all right, well, let's make it into a headdress because my wife pretty much has my balls, right? So
yes. I thought it was like some like Native American thing because of the headdress and all that. So
yeah, it was just, you know, it just kind of all fit together. And
right.
eventually, you know, I want to finish it out, but I'm just not really sure what else to do with it right now. But yeah, if any tattoo artists are looking for work right now, let me know. Give me your ideas.
Yeah, I get so nervous about finishing mine because I was always told from a long time ago. They said, "Do you know what a full sleeve is?" And I was like, "It's a pretty cool tattoo. I don't know." They're like, "No, it's called a salary cap." I'm like, "Oh shit! What do you?" So like below the elbow, that salary caps. I'm like, man, I don't know.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. Thankfully, you know, I can get away with that at this point. I don't know. Just do the lower half of my other arm eventually or something like that.
Just do opposites.
Yeah, do opposites. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean,
hey, to go back to
definitely more accepted now, but yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey, to go back to that mindset, I know me and Ron have talked about this before. We like to fail, which is a mindset all in itself. But I know in martial arts, like I'm missing either getting punched or kick or punching stuff or rolling around with somebody. Like I feel like I'm the biggest punk right now, and somebody could just walk all over me just because I haven't been in that fight mentality for a month. Yeah. So like, is that something that goes with like ultra marathoning or things of that nature?
For sure. Yeah. I think failing is probably one of the biggest lessons people can learn, no matter what your sport is. Like whether you're lifting really heavy and you just fail reps, or you're running 100 miles and you don't hit the cutoff times that you wanted, or you don't finish the race. There's so much learning that can happen during that time. And that kind of goes back to the education, right? Like,
yeah.
I have people that don't finish races, or they say, okay, I'm going to do this in 16 hours. And they come in at 18 hours for a race and they look at that and they're upset. And I'm like, there's no reason to be upset. What you need to do is you need to take that and learn from what happened during that race. So your next race, you can be better. And I really think that is one of the biggest lessons people can learn from, right? Is failing at something, even if it's a training run. Sometimes I set people up for it. Like I'll do a hard run right into a really long run the next day, just because you have to get into that mindset of not every race is going to go well. What can I do?
Right.
That, so, and it's probably the same, I would think, with fighting. It's one of those things that you can't go into every spar. You can't go into every fight. Obviously you want to win, but there's got to be ways that you can take something out of when you don't win. Am I right?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Because it comes down, okay, they either trained harder than me, or they were smarter than me, or, you know, they have me somewhere. Now you have to learn from that. But I think that mentality is really few and far between. People don't like to do that. And I think as martial artists or people that are training to do anything, if they don't have that mindset that, okay, this could quite possibly not go the way I want it to, and they're okay with that, then that's going to help them strive and be better.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I for sure think of that. And that's kind of, you know, going back to what Ron said about death by Fecik, it's that same thing, right? Like they go out and they do a hard track workout. One of the chicks that I work with, she's in Arizona and she's already hitting like those 95, 100-degree temperatures right now. And she's going out in the middle of the day and doing track workouts. She's going and riding her bike for 4.5 hours and then getting off and running for another 20 minutes or so. And it comes down to just, it all kind of goes into play with, number one, you might fail. Number two, if you do fail, learn from it. And if you don't, you still have to learn from that. What did I do that didn't allow me to fail? And I don't have everybody do these massive intensive workouts where it's like, I'm setting you up to fail, or there's possibilities you might fail. They're for specific reasons that I'm doing them. And they are more or less setting you up to strengthen your mindset when I do that.
I talk about that constantly. Is not only do you have to strengthen your body in general, but your mind is just as much a muscle as your legs, as your back, as your arms. And if you're not working out the brain power in it, you're going to fail ultimately. I was reading in Dave Hollis's book last night, and he mentioned Brene Brown in her TED Talk, where we tend to live in our heads on our failures. And if we make that become our identity, that's when things start to kind of go downhill pretty quickly. And whenever we do these hard things like you're talking about, where you're running 20 miles and then doing another hour or whatever, doing something else, you overcome that mentality. And as you break those barriers down, you can shed that identity of failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think that's really, really good. And it's true. And you're always going to have that, right? If you can do 20 miles of this workout and then go and hike for another hour and a half, and it's 100 degrees out and you're out of food and you only have a little bit of water left and you're just hating life. Next time you do that, you're going to remember what that felt like, and you're going to learn from that. And it's got to be the same way with fighting. It's, you know, I made this wrong move and I got pinned, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time. It seems like I'm always learning though.
Yeah, like all
because I'm always getting beat up.
Especially with Jeff, that arm bar, man.
Yeah, he's doing this new thing. Like as soon as he'll pull guard and he'll go into this new one where he just kind of goes on the one hip, and you'll try and reach down in to get an underhook, and bam, you're into, like, he does a forearm lock or something. It's wicked. And then as you try and pass more, it gets tighter and tighter.
Oh,
it's sad. It's a sad moment when it happens.
Right now, like, obviously you can't spar with people. What are you doing to make sure that you're keeping up with, you know, all of the training? I have one guy that he's really deep and heavy into boxing, which he's able to use like a heavy bag right now and stuff. But I know in the sparring too, is there certain things that you guys are doing to kind of have that feel? Do you wrestle with a heavy bag?
Yeah, that's definitely something I do. I have a heavy bag I'll put on the ground, and I'll do some passes with it and things. I have a big one of those big yoga balls. I'll work on kind of my top game with it. I'll move around and just kind of stay on top of it. But other than that, there's really not much I'm doing other than watching videos, doing that as well, visualization. I mean, I think that's a powerful tool and underutilized. And it sounds kind of woo-woo, but as you run through some of those tutorials and you close your eyes and you see yourself do it, I think sometimes it can be a powerful tool in the absence of actual contact.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings up a really good point. Something I do with my clients as we get ready for bigger races is I have them do a race plan. Even for,
Yeah.
races or big weekends that they're having, I have them come up with a race plan. And in that race plan, they can do visualizations off of it because they know, okay, here's my targets. If I'm having an A race, here's my targets. This is how much food I need to eat. This is how much I need to drink. Here's where I need to be at mile marker 35. Here's how I need to be feeling. Here's, what I'm going to do for refueling, all those things. And we come up with that about a week to 2 weeks beforehand. And then I have them read that and have it posted everywhere so that they can read it, print it out, post it, reread it, read it before you go to bed, sit with it and visualize. If it's a Ironman, what happens if this happens? Like you get a flat tire or you just hit a wall or whatever it is. How do you work through those things? And visualizing it works just as well in those situations as actually going out and having to do those things. I think the mind works like that. Because you're not specifically doing that act, it is really helpful to do those visualizations.
Yeah, the cool thing on with self-defense, a lot of it, like you want to know 5 seconds before the fight, right? So my thing is my training and what I've been doing on top of like videos and just footwork stuff is the situational awareness portion. So if I'm driving, if I'm walking into the grocery store, like I constantly do this, I'll look and see how many cameras there are. I'll look and see who's wearing what and why is this guy wearing a Spider-Man face mask? There's just things that I kind of like train myself that if they get into a certain proximity, how can they affect me? And then how can I affect them? So
Right. Yeah.
is my stance right? Could I be caught off guard? So like these are things, because I conceal carry constantly. So if I'm able to affect someone that's gonna possibly victimize me, my family, or someone else, I want to be able to react faster and be ready for that. So so visual is a big thing for me.
Yeah. Does that mean you live your life as a paranoid person, or is there ways to kind of separate those two? Because there's the people that are like obviously just paranoid, and then there's people that are using it for training purposes, right? And it goes back to like with endurance sports, it would be either obsessive over something where you just can't leave it versus actually using it for good.
Yeah, so there's a difference between vigilance and hypervigilance, right? So I don't want to, because if you're hypervigilant, then you're not confident. You see? So with vigilance, it's just like, oh, okay, I see that. I don't have to continually see that, like say, okay, I got it. I got a plan for that. Now I'll go over here. I got a plan for that. And I make it more so of a game because it's not putting myself in a certain situation right away. So I have that plan, kind of like you were talking about your plan for running. I have that plan like, okay, there's an exit there if something were to happen. Or I can grab my son, like my son shouldn't be 6 feet away from me. He should be, about 3 feet away from me. And it's just a vigilance as opposed to the hypervigilance.
Yeah, that's a delicate balance that we talk about in Krav Maga is being aware of your surroundings, but not to the point that you're crippled and staying at home. That's something that we always talk about because, Mike, that's what you brought up is exactly what everybody asks when we bring up, hey, whenever you're putting away your groceries, make sure, you're kind of looking around every couple bags because, just to be aware.
Sure.
Whenever you're at the ATM, make sure that you just look around, before you do things. So yeah, it's being aware, but not being crippled by it.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool. I think that's really neat to be able to, walk in and say, okay, I'm going to use this as kind of a training, so to speak, where you walk in and you say, okay, I'm just at the grocery store, but now what would I have to do if I needed to get out of here? I think that's really cool. I've never thought about that before. That's a really neat way of being able to train yourself for situations, and think really quickly on your feet.
It opens up your eyes to a lot of, whenever you start to think that way, anytime that you get into a situation at a restaurant, if it's at the grocery store, these are just like typical places, gas station. That's a big one. Like whenever you start thinking, hey, why did I leave the passenger side unlocked whenever I'm out of my car and my kid's inside? Why did I do that? I probably shouldn't do that. Just having that awareness. Aaron, I do that all the time ever since we started Krav Maga, man. It's you guys are in my ear about it at the very beginning, and it's something that I've carried through for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like
so
that.
in the absence of, just like you asked us, in the absence of being hands-on with your clients, I know you have an online presence that's pretty heavy. You just brought up a client from Arizona. You're in Ontario. So are you still staying strong throughout all of this?
Yeah. It's one of those things that people need to, just like with what you guys are doing, they still need to be training.
Yeah. Right.
Races are eventually going to come back online. It might be July, it might be August, it might be September, but if you let the training go now, you're just going to have that much more of a hill to have to climb when you get back into training. So making sure that, you're still getting out there doing things just as if you were racing. And some of my clients that I work with, even if their races are canceled, we'll sub out some other kind of race-like situation for them, whether it's, okay, you had a half Ironman, we can't do that. Why don't you run a hard 70.3 run, for this weekend's run? Or I still want you going out and doing a 56-mile bike ride. Or if they're, a ultra marathon runner, I still want them out as much as they can hiking or, running those long distances. And I mean, the virtual challenges for endurance sports are creeping up, which is really, really helpful to keep people on track. I actually, last night, was just sitting there, and the guy that runs the Barkley Marathon just put up a challenge, a virtual challenge, and it's 1,000 kilometers, so like 621 miles in 4 months. And he has like 6,000 people doing it. I'm like, I'm already going to be running those miles.
Yeah.
But for me, it's not doing that. I want to do the double, because he has like double that distance, right? So 2,000 kilometers, you basically are running across Tennessee. And then if you do the double, you're running back across Tennessee. So in a month, it's 310 miles, which is like 70 miles a week. Or I'm sorry, it's 310 miles a month, or 1,200 miles in the 4-month period, which is a push for me. I usually sit around 60 to 65 miles a week. So pushing to 70 is a little bit more than what I would, but it's something to kind of keep your mind moving. And I just find it to be really helpful for people to still be training during this time, because you have a little bit more time. You don't have a commute to work. You still have races that could be coming up. I still have 1, 2, 3 races that haven't been canceled. One in July, one in September, and one in November. So
right.
You still need to be training. If you're not training right now, you're going to be screwed when July rolls around and they're like, surprise, you're still running 100 miles. You're like, uh-oh, I haven't run.
Yeah, I would not want to be starting training in the summer. Like no. I want to kind of be in just about tip-top shape once summer hits.
Right. So yeah. I've been trying to treat this as people still have races coming up.
Yeah.
I want them in shape. I want them ready to roll when races do come back online, because there's going to be a lot more competition at these races now. But you're going to also get a lot of people that just are like, oh shit, I didn't realize that we were
right.
to be racing.
So let me ask you, do you think that we're still going to have a lot of people at these races? I think it's going to drop off.
I think it's either going to drop off, or they're going to have to come up with a way so that you're doing really staggered starts. Whether it's corrals of 50 people and you just have them go off at different times, and you're starting at like Saturday at, 6 a.m. and then 6:30, 7:30, and just continuously throughout the day. It's going to be where time trial starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
think you came at it from a social distancing point of view. I just meant just from a numbers standpoint. Like people, I don't know.
yeah.
I know on my travels, whenever I'm running, I see a lot less people. And
Yeah.
and that's weird to me because there's so much more time now to do it.
Yeah, that's all I'm about to say. That there's probably more time. Well, not for me because I'm not that motivated, but there's probably a lot more people that maybe.
Like the motivational guys in there is like, nah,
I'm out.
But like they're probably like, oh, I got more time, or oh, I need to do something, or I need to do something maybe with my kids. So you might have more people that are trying to push themselves to do something like that.
Yeah, a lot of races too have been postponed, and they're like, okay, so we couldn't do this race in May, but we're going to do it in September. So your transfer is to September, or you can roll it over to the next year. So I guess a lot of people could be waiting and doing that, but a lot of people at this point, at least my clients, they're like, I want to get out and race, man. I'm ready to go. And obviously trail racing is a little bit different. The fields are usually smaller. You're getting like maybe 800 people instead of like, 50,000, like one of these marathons. I think Ron, I think that he did that just so we could see the Valor combat there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I'll be right back.
He's a halfway through bathroom kind of guy.
Yeah, so I really think that when races come back online, a lot of people are going to be like, I'm ready to race. Let's just go and do it.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope so because I mean a lot of the races that we do, our entry fees are preserving these trails and these state forests and things like that. So I hope that people just weather the storm, they're still training, and they come back out to race because I want to be able to continue to do this for the rest of my life.
Right. Yeah. I think the hardest thing for people right now isn't that, okay, I have a race coming up. It's the accountability right now. They're like, that race is down the road now. I don't have to worry about it. It's not going to be in June. It's going to be in September. I have plenty of time, but it's like, you're just losing fitness. Why not, do what you're like, if you really love it. And this goes back to the why. If you really, truly love this, you're going to continue to train whether you have a race or not. And some of that, internal motivation versus that external, I only train to race. You have to kind of learn that your why can't be to do a race. It needs to be to better yourself as a person and still show your family that you're doing hard work so that when race day comes, you can do better than maybe what you expected.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's funny that everything comes down to family, because I think that for one, you're like Ron, we talked about this before, like we're showing our kids how to overcome some things or how to do things to its fruition. And Mike, I'm sorry, do you have children?
No children.
Okay, so that's how you can run 75 miles a week. I mean,
but you have to remember, I train people and they are my kids, but they all have kids too. So I basically have like grandkids, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
I was just going to say that all your kids are your clients. I mean, God, I couldn't imagine corralling all of them. Yeah, sorry, Aaron, go ahead.
But no, it just because I know Mike has brought this up before about like the family and showing things and being able to overcome things, and you're really setting them up for good spaces, good mindsets, kind of like your dad and your grandfather did before you. Made you the hard worker, made you. If you never saw your father, say your father was a slug, say he never did anything, like how would you be coaching people right now?
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's an interesting question. Thankfully he wasn't. I think I would still have some push to do that because I definitely have that want for people to learn and be educated, but it might be in a different degree. It might be as a phys ed teacher or something like that, more on the education side. Even though I do a lot of education, it might not be as much with adults and working on mindset. It might be with kids and just having fun. So it's weird how, like, you know, those early childhood experiences really do shape who you are.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm going to have to reflect a little bit on that and see if I really would be at the same spot I would be. I want to say I would, just because I just like hurting myself.
Yeah. Well, learn how to play the piano. Let's see how far you can go.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I can't remember where it was. I remember reading something that the same mindset that you have when you're 5 years old is the exact same mindset that you have now, which is, I don't understand that, but the way that you problem solve when you're 5 is the same way you problem solve now. I don't know.
Wow.
On a basic level, I think it was actually in the Dave Hollis book too.
Really?
The same one that I referenced a little bit earlier. Yeah, I mean, I read all the time. So next question, I guess, what are you reading? What is like a book that you would recommend or have recommended to others that you coach, or just in general?
Yeah. So for sure, one of the best books that I've read is called Burn Your Goals. And it is, I forget the name of the guy. Let me look it up here quick. It's Josh.
Burn Your Goals. That's a great title.
Yeah, it is. It's a great book, and it gets you so fired up. Yeah, it's Jamie Gilbert and Joshua Medcalf. And it talks about basically putting first things first. It does have some religious undertones. I'm not necessarily a religious person, but if you can look past that and maybe use God as just a higher being instead of God in a religious sense,
Sure.
It's a really, really good read. It talks about basically putting first things first and everything else is going to fall into place. Really loving the process. And he has another book out. Joshua Medcalf has another book, and it's called Chop Wood, Carry Water.
I love that.
That book is such a short read. It's like, you can read it in half a day, and it's an amazing book. Have you read that one, Ron?
Yeah, I have that one. It's been years since I read it. But yeah, I don't remember all the ins and outs of it, but yeah, I definitely have it.
Yeah, that's a great one. And every time I read it, I learn something new from it. And then there's another one that I just read by Ryan Holiday, and it's I don't know where I put it. It's I'll shoot the information over to you, but it basically is talking about how people in history have used stillness. It's called Stillness is the Key. And used stillness to really think about situations before they react to them. So, like, for instance, Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis used stillness to say, okay, if I piss off this guy, he's going to bomb us all. But if I give him an extra couple days, maybe he's going to cool off, and then we can actually, talk.
Yeah.
Like things like
that's really good. Yeah.
It's a really, really good book. Again, it's a short read. It's probably only like 200 pages. And those 3 books have like really kind of helped shifted my mindset, especially Burn Your Goals. That is such a mindset book, and it's great for, coaching, and it's great for business, but it's also great for life as well. They talk a lot about, golfers in there, and stillness is the key. They also talk about Tiger Woods a lot. Like Tiger Woods, like growing up, his dad just made him hit golf ball after golf ball after golf ball and practice. But he gave him an outward, which he never used. And the outward was enough, which is really interesting that would be the word that he would use, to get out of training is I've had enough. And to his defense, Tiger Woods was an amazing golfer, but he also, because of some of the stuff he had early in life, caused some issues later in life.
Arguably, you could have a direct line. Something that you mentioned there, that stillness. I was listening to actually Lou Armazzani, his live feed the other day, his guest had talked about a tactical pause. And Aaron, I'm sure you're familiar with this. A tactical
Yeah.
pause
Uh-huh.
is coming from the military, but that's something that I think a lot of us can take away. If you take nothing else away from this, a tactical pause is probably the most influential thing you can do in an interaction with another human being, up above anything else, because the way that you respond to something is going to outweigh the actual stimulus that came at you, you know? So in this time of like, I don't agree with this, you don't agree with me, or I have this stance, or I'm on this team, the way that you respond is totally up to you. You know, how all that stimuli is coming at you, you can't control any of that. The only thing that you can control, and something that will give you power in all of what we're dealing with now and in the future, is how you respond to it. So that tactical pause, man, that is absolutely 100% necessary.
Yeah, that's great that they use the word tactical, you know, because a tactical pause is deliberate, right? It's just like, okay,
Sure.
where do I go from here? How do I accomplish this mission? Obviously, is this working? Is this, am I okay? Is my buddy okay? You know, like that's a great, yeah, I like it. I like it. We could probably do a whole podcast on tactical pause.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, there again, it's that, like you said, it's that deliberate pause. It's not just, you're not sure what to do. It's a stop, think,
Right.
take the time to be quiet and understand the situation that you're in, and then react instead of just a split-second reaction. Obviously, you know, with, you know, fighting and things like that, you still need to be able to react very quickly. So you have to, okay, this is coming, I need to be able to react to it. But at the same time, being able to understand maybe during training, you know, okay, this is what's coming. What are the 3 things that I could do? And what are the outcomes of all 3 things before I make my final decision?
Yeah. Yeah. I use it in work all the time. I used to respond. I felt like I wasn't doing my customers a service unless I responded immediately. Like I had to get back to you immediately. And as soon as an email came in, brrr, I was on the keyboard, bam, I had an answer for you. And it was like every, I don't know, 5 times I would do that, I'd be like, oh shit, I shouldn't have sent that yet, because now here's more information. Here's more information. And if you just would have waited 10 more minutes, you would have had the whole story. You know, so that's something that I've adopted even before I heard it from you and from Lou the other day. I've just adopted that because that's what my boss does. You know, that's what he does all the time, is like, he doesn't respond to something until it's absolutely necessary almost. And it's because you have to absorb all of the influences around you.
Yeah.
And all of the information around you before I feel like you can make it an educated response to something that's a complex issue.
Right. Yeah. And I agree with that too. You know, I think that especially now, everybody wants that instantaneous response. A text message is unanswered for 2 hours. They're like, did you get my text message? Did you get my email? You know, and I use a program for training called Training Peaks. And essentially what it does is, as soon as someone enters information, it emails me and says, hey, you know, Joe just entered information and his GPS watch uploaded his run from today. And I'll look at that information, and then all of a sudden I just want to respond to it, you know, but there's no other information. And I tell all of my clients, if you put in comments, I'm going to respond, and I want to know, you know, how your training was going for the day, how you felt, everything like that. And there might not be any comments at that point. And I might still be like, how are things going? Is everything okay? But if I waited another hour, Joe gets back and he finally uploads comments saying, hey, you know, this run went really well. I ate enough beforehand. I ate during this run. And all the questions that I would have asked him, he's going to answer anyway. So it's kind of slowing down a little bit, even though I want that communication always open with my clients.
Yeah.
I've learned to just wait a couple extra hours instead of just immediately trying to give them, you know, that response.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually just did this week. I have a friend that she says all behavior is purposeful, right? So that could go so many different ways. But I work in the Department of Corrections, and there was one of the convicts said something really cross to me, and it affected me big time, right? Now this guy, he's 6'7", probably about 3 and some change, right? So I'm like, okay, all right, because I just wanted to go all in, you know? And I'm like, all right, wait a minute. I'm gonna find out, because he's a little mentally unstable.
Right.
And he says things without thinking about it. He's not very educated. So I did a little background. I took my time. I let it be, walked off, said a couple crosswords, but I let it be, right? And then, so I came back the next day and I let him know how that affected me. The first thing he did was apologize, right? So if I would have not taken that tactical pause, you know, to kind of see the whole background of the whole thing, I could have been brawling with this guy, because I was ready to just go all in and let him know who was boss. So didn't do that, got all the other additional information, let him know what was going on. The first thing he did was apologize. He said, I should have never offended you that way. And I let him, and it was done. All of a sudden, the dude's trying to give me chips, cakes, and stuff like.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if we use that more in life with our relationships, maybe we wouldn't get in as many fights there too.
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
All guys out there, take note. If you have,
Right.
I do it all the time. And there's another thing. There's another thing that I learned whenever I was
tactical pause in relationships. Yes.
Tactical pause and drop the rope. So here's what drop the rope is. So if you're in an argument, you're both tugging on the rope. You're both, you know, just going crazy. I'm right. No, I'm right. This whole thing. And at some point you have to say to yourself or ask yourself, is this worth it? Do they have a point? Should I just drop the rope and maybe listen to them for a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that was taught to me, I say probably a decade ago. It's called drop the rope. And every now and again, I think that my wife is catching on to it now, because like, I'll just be like, okay, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah. No, she's probably like, pick that damn rope up. Let's keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, Mike, I think you're right, man. If we would just kind of take a pause and not just fly off the handle immediately at people, and be like, nah, because it always comes back to like, you're right, or you're more righteous than the other person, and it's like, nah, I think everybody's just looking out for the best well-being of their family and themselves most of the time. And everybody's coming at life from that approach. And if you just have that in the back of your mind, you're like, well, why do they think that's the best way to go about this?
Right.
So,
yeah, no, I agree. And I think, you know, people are very polarized. So they're always going to think that they're right, you know, but if you give them that pause, they might take a step back and be like, oh shit, maybe I'm not.
Well, even if you give them a pause, like, we hate silence. Even during this conversation, when there's silence, I feel like I need to interject something. And I'm going to bring up this book again, but the Dave Hollis book again, he was saying, because he was a big executive.
Shout out to Dave Hollis. If Dave Hollis is looking to sponsor.
Yeah, right. But it's a book that I'm reading right now, so it's like on top of mind. And but he was in these meetings and he was in a new position, so he felt a little bit vulnerable and wanted to prove himself. And during every meeting, when there was a pause, he would interject something. But his boss, after this one meeting, he was like constantly like, bam, bam, bam. He was saying all types of good stuff. And the meeting ends and his boss goes, hey, I want you to come to my office. And so they go to the office and he's saying, man, I'm thinking that I'm going to get like the double high five for my awesome job during the meeting. And his boss goes to me, goes, man, just shut the F up. Just shut up. You're fine. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. And I'm like, how about that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, that's really important. And it's something that we all have to work on sometimes too, right? Like, we're all eager to jump in and say something if there's silence. And the silence doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong. It just means that everybody is kind of pondering those thoughts. But if you leave that silence, maybe your thoughts are even more developed, for that 2 seconds after you allow yourself to think. And it's something that, it's a sales tactic too, right? Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
pause there and eventually people are like, what, did I not give the right answer? We always want to be right. So if you let that pause there, people think they're not, you want more from their answer, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. I mean, therapy, you go to a psychologist, they'll keep that. They'll be like, okay, how does that make you feel?
Mike, I think you're right though. That silence, I didn't even think about it until you said it's kind of a sales tactic. Is I do it inadvertently when I am at a sales call. They'll start talking, and I just won't say anything. Like, I'm actually really listening to what they're saying, and I don't have a response yet. Like, I just don't have a response yet, and there will be an awkward pause, and they'll start to talk again.
yeah.
Yeah, I never even connected that.
Yeah. And not giving away, like, I find that when I'm on a call, like a consult call, I'm trying to give too much information to people. So what the whole goal would be is to obviously consult with that person, understand what they need and what you can do to help them, but not give away too much of what you're going to do to help them. So if I'm like, oh yeah, we can do 2 swims a week and we can do, 4 hours of biking a day and whatever it is, you're giving away too much information, and that's what they're coming to you for. They don't care what you're going to do sometimes. What they care about is, are you able to take them from point A to point B? So, if you give so much away, they're like, all right, well, what do I need your help? If it's that easy, I'll just move on and, do what I need.
Yeah.
Huh,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll just download it. Thanks.
yeah.
Well, hey guys, we're coming up on 9:30. I could talk all day with both of you. But
Yeah.
I do have some other things I need to do. But Mike, where can people find your stuff? Where can they find you? I know you have a few avenues, so go ahead.
Yeah. Instagram's a big one for me. I'm at Fecik_endurance. And you can DM me there. You can find my information. I try to post as much information as I can, throughout the day. And a lot of it is my life, and a lot of it has to do with good tips for coaching. From there, if you jump on my profile, in my bio, there's links to consult calls there, and also my website, which is fecikcoaching.com. Those are two of the best avenues to find me at. And, I'm always happy to talk on either of those. I'm on Facebook as well, but DMing on Instagram is always the easiest to find me. Those are the two biggest avenues.
Last question for you, and I forgot to ask you this, and this is from Josh. He said, what's the difference between 500,000 and 500,000?
Oh, Jesus. Dude, so, all right, Josh is looking for a building to rent or to buy, and this one was for him for sale, and he was like, yeah, it's $500,000, and I'm like, well, that's less than $500,000, and I'm just like, like, what am I just, we have so many of those little things. He also says that he's faster than me too, because we went for a run one day, and when we got back to the gym, he beat me to the door. So he's like, I'm faster than you. I ran the whole distance and paced with you, and then beat you to the door. And I'm like,
he's faster than you.
Yeah,
I love it.
Right?
Yeah, solid. Aaron, what do you got going on, my man? You guys,
Hey.
you have the online gun courses on Mondays and Fridays now?
Yeah. Mondays and Fridays, we got the online Krav classes and the Carter kickboxing classes. It looks like we're going to be good for firearms courses in June, and we're looking at a student appreciation day on a Saturday that we're going to just have the guys come out, and we're going to shoot some stuff, do some Krav stuff, and it's going to be free. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. So valorpds.com. All the courses got pushed back for the firearms courses. And I just want to say, hey, thanks, Mike, for coming out. This was a good one, man. This was a pleasure. I appreciate you coming out and chatting with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, guys.
Yeah, for sure. Just so you guys know, on Sunday, I will be doing a charity run for, I'm calling it hashtag Food for Miles 2020. I was supposed to do the Pittsburgh Marathon on Sunday for my birthday, but obviously that's canceled, but I'm still going to do the marathon run. And every mile that I run is going to be a food donation. And then I've opened it up to a group, and anybody who hashtags the Food for Miles 2020, whatever miles you do, I will also donate a food item for every mile you do. So if that's walking, if that's running, if that's walking backwards on your hands, I don't care. I want to help everybody that is hungry. It breaks my heart to think that there is anybody out there that doesn't have food or doesn't have a meal to feed their kids. So I never want that to be the case. And you can find more information on that. Obviously, follow the hashtag or check me out on Instagram at Ambitious Distractions. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Enjoy the journey.
All right.
Take care.